In this bonus episode, we're talking to FBI Special Agent Dan Johnson. So with us in studio today, we have FBI Special Agent Dan Johnson, and he's here to talk to us about his life as a student before he became an FBI agent, his life now as an FBI agent. We're going to talk a little bit about our Report Don't Repost campaign and kind of wrap up our interview with some fun questions. So hi, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Sarah. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Of course. So before we get into what you do as an agent, tell the viewer a little bit about who you are. Where did you grow up? Where did you go to high school?
I grew up in California and Virginia. Loved school all the time.
I love to hear that.
Like everyone does.
Oh, we love to hear that. Of course, we like people who love school. So then what were your aspirations growing up? I would say right around high school age.
I had very vague aspirations. And I think a lot of people, they struggle with this. If they're good at things, if they were good at school, but they don't have a passion, if they don't have something that they're dreaming about, they don't really know what they're going to do. Mm-hmm. So they go off to college not knowing what they're going to do. And there's a real danger there of floating. I didn't have any real goals or any real dreams, so I went to the military academy at West Point, which
very impressive.
Very firmly gave me goals and dreams. And that was really good for me. I needed that at 17, 18 years old.
Well, I love to hear that. That's very impressive. And I know it's very difficult to get into that academy. So talk to us about your journey from that point on. When you got into there, what made you move into the FBI?
Oh, well, that was a long and winding road. I was in the Army as an Army officer for 10 years and got out after going to war a couple times because I had kids and I didn't want to go back to war while my kids grew up at home. I worked for a few different companies while trying to get into the FBI. Which means that I've been an Army officer, I have taught school, I have worked for Nabisco, making Oreo cookies.
Amazing.
Ritz crackers. I've worked as a contractor and consultant, and I've worked for Sears right before Sears went under. I think my leaving.
That's what did it?
It was the final
Your
straw.
leaving is what, okay, yeah. So then from there, you said it took a while to get into the FBI, but now you are in the FBI. Congratulations. Yes. Talk to us. What is a day like in your life as an agent? You don't have to get it super into detail because I know there's some stuff you really can't share, but talk about generally what you do.
Well, that is a really good question, but I'm a really poor example of that. I don't do the same thing every day. I don't think I have a week where I do the same thing every day. And that really suits me well. And I think that anyone who works as a special agent in the Bureau can find a way to be supremely satisfied in their work. It's important work, and you have the opportunity to do it the way you want to do it. I do a lot of things. My primary role is to investigate violent crime, but there's a lot of value in working to make sure the violent crime doesn't happen rather than simply investigating it after it happens. Mm-hmm. So I spend a lot of time talking to people, working with people, providing training, increasing cooperation and awareness. I also train our agents in both shooting and fighting, working with the tools that they've got, which gives me something new to do every day.
Well, I imagine you have to maybe doing something different every day.
You
can't get bored.
That's what I like. I don't like being bored. I like doing something different every day.
That's good. Before we move into our next part of the segment, so talk to the listener who's around high school age, maybe middle school, and their dream and goal is to maybe go into the FBI. It sounds like it's not a very easy process, but what's your encouragement to them? Stick with it? I mean, what else would you say?
Oh, of course, stick with it. But then on top of that, you have to think about what makes you special, what makes you different. Everyone's got something that is unique to them. And at that age, junior high and high school, it's a wonderful time to try new things, mm-hmm. to really challenge yourself, to stretch, to fail, to create good stories for yourself. If you're just playing it safe and you go to school, you get good grades, you do your extracurriculars, mm-hmm. what sets you apart from everyone else who's been playing it safe, getting good grades, and doing your extracurriculars.
Okay. I really like that.
Find something that makes you special. And usually that's failing in interesting ways while you have a safety net.
Well, so if you're watching or you're listening, again, and you're a high school student, middle school, make sure you're finding those things that make you unique and special. I think we have plenty of opportunities here in Paradise Valley that allow students to find that, which is really wonderful. Let's move on to this campaign that our district just recently when I say wrapped up, we're still working on it 24/7 pretty much, but it's called Report, Don't Repost. And we started this last year. We saw in the school district, we had a huge influx of students who were sharing social media posts that they saw. Maybe a stranger created it and they saw it and they shared it, maybe a friend did. And the intention wasn't always meant to be harmful. Sometimes it was meant to find answers and seek information. So kids were going on social media, they would see a post, maybe a threat toward a school. It might not even be one of our schools. It could have just been a very generic threat. And we found students were sharing it with their friends, or parents trying to get information and be helpful were sharing it on, the Facebook group. And it was creating a lot of confusion and chaos and misunderstanding and fear within our community because people didn't know what was true, what wasn't true. Mm-hmm. So the point of this campaign was to tell people to report incidents, don't repost them. Can you talk a little bit with what you do, or talk to the student who's watching? Why is it important when they see a social media threat not to continue sharing that, but to report it to a trustworthy adult?
One of the big parts of my job is working to mitigate possible active shooter incidents, particularly at schools. And most of the time, this comes from, news of it comes from online.
Okay.
And schools, in particular, have a really clear responsibility. The responsibility is not to tell everyone everything. The responsibility is to ensure that the school is safe, and the people who are in the school, the people for whom the school has stewardship, that those people are safe. If that possible threat is spread around the community rather than given to the school, then the school is behind the game. Mm-hmm. And their ability to make people safe is delayed. On top of which, it creates confusion and possibly panic, which makes it much harder for law enforcement than to respond appropriately. It's not helpful.
That makes sense. No.
Yes.
Well, it's nice to get that from someone who has that authority, who a lot about schools and, again, mitigating those risks. So we do appreciate that. And, I realized one thing I didn't get to bring up earlier is I got to meet you, fortunately, through the FBI Citizens Academy. Can you talk very briefly about the Citizens Academy and what it is and how it creates relationships between your department and the community?
Now, the FBI Citizens Academy is actually something that we began in Phoenix. It's propagated to all 56 field offices in the FBI. But what we intend it to be is a way to build relationships, bridges between the FBI and community organizations, community groups, schools, businesses, so that there's less mystery, there's more familiarity, and so that more work can be done more effectively, more efficiently. It's easier to work with someone you've seen than to simply call the FBI. Mm-hmm. So that's a big part of the goal.
I agree. And look here, today we're doing a podcast, so this is great. Thank you. All right, before we wrap up, I'm going to ask you some rapid fire questions. Okay. Don't worry. They'll be easy enough. Just whatever comes to your mind first. You ready?
Ready.
Okay. Favorite subject in school growing up?
History.
Okay. Actually, I agree. That was mine too. Yeah. Favorite beverage?
Oh, Diet Coke.
Same. This is getting weird.
Who doesn't like Diet Coke?
I know. Favorite type of food?
Breakfast.
Okay. Anything in particular?
Omelets.
Okay. Let's go through. Do you prefer movies or TV shows?
TV shows.
Action or comedy?
Comedy.
All right, let's see. Very last one. Dream vacation.
Oh, my goodness. A lake in the mountains.
Okay. All right. Well, so thank you so much. Again, this is a Special Agent Dan Johnson with the FBI who joined us on PV Beat. And he was here to kind of, again, bring together the relationship between the FBI, the community, and PV Schools, thanks to the FBI Citizens Academy. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Sarah.
And that's been a podcast. For more information on PV Schools, visit pvschools.net. And for more information on the FBI, visit fbi.gov.